Ujjwal Thapa and his political legacy in Nepal. I was browsing social media. One status made me stop by and read, "Sad news, Ujjwal Thapa passed away. Hardik Shraddhanjali." This was followed by many similar statuses from his friends, colleagues, supporters, well-wishers, and politicians from different parties. I did not know Ujjwal personally, nor did I know about his backgrounds, campaigns, and political works. During my Nepal visit a few years ago, I heard people talking about him and his Vivekshil Nepali party. An election was coming up at the time, and obviously our talks were about elections, political parties, and their candidates. Some said, "There is a new party called Vivekshil Nepali, run by the youths returned Nepal from Western countries. They might do well in this election." The word youths and the phrase "return Nepal from Western countries" caught my attention. The word youths caught my attention for a reason, that I did not have any faith left on the world generation politicians in Nepal anymore. Whichever party they belong to do good jobs for Nepal. These old generation leaders have been there in political power or position since my college days, and one way or the other, till now, at the time I'm about to retire. Sooner the better. I really wanted to see talented youths coming forward in Nepal's politics and getting involved seriously with new visions, styles, and approaches in order to make a difference. And the phrase I was drawn to for the reason I myself am residing in a Western country who is keen to use own expertise and experiences gained in the West for Nepal. I then started taking some interest in Ujjwal, his party, and the campaigns. I watched some of his interviews and the works they were carrying out. I found him a simple, patriotic, principled, and thoughtful and a compassionate individual in what he believes and thinks differently. I saw him galvanizing and inspiring the new generation of Nepali youth into politics and trying to make changes in the future in the culture of Nepal's politics. I noticed a style of quiet leadership in him amongst the crowd of mature leadership. I remember an expert of quiet leadership saying that quiet leaders who can make reasoned and considered judgments are in extreme need of today's politics and society than the macho ones running selfishly after money and or the power. I found this concept of quiet leadership fitting well in him and was hopeful that he would become a change agent in making significant contributions to Nepal's politics and the society. Politics, by its nature, is a very brutal game. In a country like Nepal, it is even worse and dirty. But Ujjwal, as a former US Senator Wellstone has said, seemed to be using politics for not about big money or power games, but about improvement of people's lives. He also seemed to be taking moralist stance of politics that linked closely to ethics. However, in reality, politics is about big money and power games. In Nepal, it is also quite common to use muscles, the criminals, gangs, and the gundas. We have seen the muscles being used from Panchayat era through constitutional monarchy to the current republicanism, using muscles for political gains and in destroying the opponents through violence. became an established norm in Nepal since the so-called People's War of the Maoist. So obviously, Ujjwal and his party had enormous challenges to face in Nepal's politics and a long way to go in achieving what they aspired for. Recognizing these real challenges, probably to become stronger, his party Bibexil merged with other new party Shaja. There is a big scope for an alternative political force in Nepal, and both parties were perhaps trying to establish themselves for this and achieve successes in this. Nevertheless, the characteristics, cultures, and the dynamics of these two parties, I think, were completely different. Shaja party comprised of mainly former retired or semi-retired professionals. In some ways, they have had their own professional identities established in Nepalese society. I do not doubt on their good intentions for the country to develop, but many see them to be there in Nepal's politics just for a platform to socialize, time pass, or some political fame and status. Although they had professional experiences, they seem to be lacking energy, desire, and political acumen. Bibexil was completely opposite. If I were a leader of Bibexil party, I would definitely not merge. This merger, I thought, would not last longer. This came to be true, and these two parties separated after a while. Ujjwal by then had contested an election, but gained no concrete success. He had to start from somewhere. I think it was good he did. Amid organized strong base of the cadres and voters of established traditional parties for many decades in Nepal, it is naive for one to expect Bibexil to gain a seat at this early stage. People seemed to be sympathetic to them and their campaigns, but they were not persuaded enough to vote for. As one of the leaders of Shaja party said, people looked at menu for new food for change in a restaurant, but ended ordering the momo, their usual favorite food. Many also believed that they were yet ready to govern and convince people with substantial policies of what they stood for and why they were different to other politicians and parties. Having lost the election and not achieved perhaps as Ujjwal expected, as time went by, Ujjwal handed over the party's main positions to the other. Unlike other political parties and the leaders, he, in my view, established a norm. If you lose or cannot deliver as expected, have to go. And the two parties, Bibexil and Shaja, merged again recently. I still think Bibexil would not have merged, but they might have done this for a quick route to gain a momentum as a joint alternative political force in Nepal. Or some other valid reasons I cannot see, or something else I disagree with. They could have some patience and taken time well in campaigning and convincing people stage by stage. As the saying goes, Rome was not built in a day. Imran Khan, the president of Pakistan, and his party would be a good example Bibexil could learn from. It took about 20 years for Khan and his party, Tehreek-e-Insaf, to come to the power by winning a parliamentary election. Going slow and steady and winning the race sometimes, I believe, is far meaningful in the long run than going fast and having no sustainable winning. Maoist violence is a clear example of this. Pushpa Kamal Dahal and Barbaram Bhattarai chose the shortcut path of violence to the power, but as a matter of fact, they did not do any good to Nepal and the Nepalese people. I have seen Ujjwal winning very successful campaigns, but one question is there. How successful was he in Nepal's alternative politics? It is debatable. It also depends on how his party and their associates will do in future, but the immense outpouring public wishes for his health recovery and the expressions of sadness and sympathies after his untimely death this week have clearly proved him as a much loved, compassionate youth politician, the founder of an idea of an alternative political force, a change agent, and an influencer to the youths in Nepal's politics. These are what I think his political legacies and he will be remembered of. I hope the youths associated with him in his journey will follow his legacies and will continue inspiring other youths in becoming a dynamic force for change in Nepal's politics. The duty of the youth now is to challenge the current political establishment in a gentle way, like Ujjwal was doing, and sake of Nepal's politics. This is how I believe a real tribute will be paid to Ujjwal. Almost everything that is great has been done by youths, says Benjamin Disraeli. I'm sure the youth in Nepal will do great. Thank you.